Hello there, I'm Scotty, you're not, and in the final review from 1980, I am talking about Xanadu. That's right, Xanadu, starring Olivia Newton-John, Michael Beck, and Gene Kelly. It's a musical, which came out around the same time as Can't Stop the Music, which was another musical about the village people, and had a roller skating Steve Guttenberg, so it had that common thread, but it tells the story of Sonny Malone, a struggling album cover artist who wants to do something better with his life, and he stumbles upon a woman named Kira, and eventually Gene Kelly's character, Danny McGuire, which is a character name that Gene Kelly also used in the 1944 film, I don't remember. What was it called? I don't remember, but in the 1944 film, he used it in that one too. And I don't think there's actually any connection between the characters. It's like Dick Miller playing Walter Paisley in a million movies. It's never the same character, just the same name. You know. But yeah. The Cover Girl. That was the name of the movie, The Cover Girl from 1944. And I read the synopsis. It has nothing to do with this. There's really no connection. So, yeah. Yeah, and so right away, like, the best thing in this movie, like, this is one of the movies, this along with Can't Stop the Music, was one of the movies that launched the Golden Raspberry Awards, or the Razzies. And I just want to say, it's really not that bad. My mom showed it to me when I was a kid. And while Grease was always my go-to musical if I wanted a musical, you know, I said it before, I love musicals. Grease is probably my go-to musical if I want one. This one's not bad. Basically, like I said, Sonny, he's a struggling artist. He wants to do more with his artistry, but he struggles. He quit his job at the album cover factory thing, where he struggled and then went back, I guess. But like, we see him struggling, he rips the paper up, he throws it, and that's when all the muses come to life, and we get the song "I'm Alive" by ELO, or Electric Light Orchestra. I will be referring to them as ELO from now on in this review because it's easier for me to say. But yeah, the soundtrack was a mix of, there's ELO, Olivia Newton-John, or ONJ as Wikipedia states, and another band. I don't remember, but I know that Fee Waybill was like the lead singer or something of that band. They have like a number. It's a pretty cool number. And so basically, he doesn't have anything pushing him. Because he tried to go on his own, he couldn't do it, so he has nothing pushing him to do this stuff. So he just goes back to the old grind. But I feel like, I understand in musicals you'll have musical numbers that tell the story, and so with the introduction of Kira and Sonny, it's during a musical number, I'm Alive, and then at the end of the movie, there's another musical number which heralds Kira's return from something I'll explain later. But there has to be some kind of storytelling with it, and like I've said in other musical reviews, the musical performances have to tell the story. You're not doing the right job with your musical if, like in this movie, the musical numbers stop the movie and you just have a musical number where they're singing. There's a lot of them in this. There's one where Gene Kelly, and Michael Beck, Danny and Sonny, they make a deal. Danny and Sonny. Wait a minute. Olivia Newton-John's in a musical, two characters named Danny and Sonny. Something tells me whoever wrote this watched Grease before. They're like, hey, two characters, Danny, Sonny. I saw it on Grease. Let's get Olivia Newton-John to play the main role. Grease came out 2 years before this, but yeah, it's really, I just thought of that. But like they're talking about, they make a deal, and then Sonny leaves, and then Danny imagines the 1940s, back when he was a flute player, whatever it was, flute player in the 1940s, and it's shown to us that he also had a muse, and it was the same person. And he says the line, he goes, you probably wouldn't recognize me, but I'd recognize you. And then later when they meet, he sort of does. He's like, do we know each other? No, I don't think so. Really, you look very familiar. Like, but then as it goes on, you get the impression that he has figured it out, and he does realize that it's her. So you got that going for him. That's the wrong movie. You got that going for him. But yeah, that's where it just stops. And there's other performances in the film where they just stop, right? They just stop. Like, there's a whole performance where he decides he's like, I have to get the perfect outfit for the premiere. And there's a whole musical performance at this clothing shop. And then when they're trying to come up with how they're going to present the club, Sonny wants it to be 70s-ish, because this was 1980, and he does say it's the 80s, but at this point, it's very 70s style rock, although there are some hairstyles that are very 80s in this. But, excuse me, my breakfast's coming back up, excuse me. Felt good though. And then Gene Kelly, or Danny, sees a 1940s inspired thing, and they kind of go back and forth until they merge and become one thing, which is to signify both of them coming together and kind of putting both of their ideas together. But they just stand there going back and forth, seeing these things in their imagination, and just kind of stop the story. This one is probably the only one that really does sort of progress things, because it's, instead of having a scene where they hash out and argue over what they want to do, it's presented as a musical performance, which I guess is better. And I should mention that these musical numbers were choreographed by Kenny Ortega, who did movies like High School Musical movies, Newsies, and Hocus Pocus, the first one. So he knows musicals, and so he didn't direct it, he choreographed the stuff. So he's very good at that, and the dance numbers are good. But like I say, they do stop. Even the final part, like the final dance number, the Xanadu, it goes on forever. You get a Xanadu, and you get another song in a rock and roll version, and then copied in a Western version, and then back to Xanadu, and this is probably about 5 to 6 minutes long. But it just goes on and on and on. And like with the storytelling part, it just sort of happens. Okay, so the whole non-musical part of this is a love story, which isn't handled the best way, but I think it's decent for what they try to do. Where Sonny and Kira are falling in love, but she's a muse and she's not supposed to. But they're falling in love, and he tells her that he loves her. She says, I love you too, but it's not supposed to be like this. She confesses who she is. And at first he doesn't believe her, but like there are things at the beginning of the movie that, you know, that are told to him that makes him think. Because like when he first sees her, right? Sorry, my note ditches. When he first sees her, she like bumps into him, kisses him, and then zooms off like in a weird light thing. And then the next time he sees her, he drives a motorcycle, which is funny because Michael Beck was in The Warriors, off a pier and sees her again, zoom off. And when he finds her on an album cover, which is essentially just this, basically, he asked the guy, and he's like, there was not supposed to be a model in the picture. It just happened. She was just there, you know. I mean, there is something otherworldly going on. So but when she tells him what's going on, he kind of struggles and like, okay, if I believe you, will you stay? Or something like that. Like, okay, I believe you, but she leaves anyway. And then this guy... So, when Danny explains what happened to him, right? He met this girl that pushed him to do all this stuff, but as soon as she was gone, he gave up. Because it's really her that she wanted, and his fame was... like gone, done. And that's his whole story, is he gave up. And so after she leaves, he's you know, he gives up. And he's sitting on the same rock that Danny was when he found him. He goes, kid, if you give up, you do this, you're going to be out of the same rock 30 years from now. Take it from me. I know. Don't give up on this. Yeah, but Kira, she's gone. So go find her. And he does. He roller skating. It's a really weird shot, too, because I'm like, okay, who are we focusing on? And then eventually Sonny comes into focus, but they got him way the fuck back there. So it's really weird. It's like, you see Mr. T back there? I'm going to call it Mr. T on my door there. That's how far he is when it starts. And then he gets closer and closer and closer, and you realize, oh, that's what we're focusing on. Yeah. Excuse me again. So he finds the wall with the muses on it that we see at the beginning with I'm alive. He sees it, he goes up, he touches it, realizes it's her, and he goes back, and he's on roller skates, by the way, and he just skates right into the wall. He's very lucky that worked, because otherwise you could have a concussion, be dead running into a wall. But he gets there and he wants her back, but Zeus... we don't use that name anymore, which, by the way, I thought it was Chairman Mouse from the Rescuers, but it's not, but it sounds like him. And he's like, no, you will leave, Kira will stay, and that is that. You know, because her job was only to make sure Xanadu happened. Which is weird, because she is not really around every single time that Danny and Sonny meet. Not really. Like, maybe she guides him to the rock. I think he falls off the pier, so that's when he finds Danny on the rock. But then the other two times they just bump into each other, so I don't know. It's very weird. At least that's what I see. I don't know. And and so Sonny is kicked out, but then Zeus's wife, or whatever she is, convinces Zeus. He goes, okay, for maybe a minute or forever. I forget which one is which or whatever, and then we cut to Xanadu. And despite the fact that Sonny had given up, he is there. Maybe he gave up on Kira, but he realized he's got to stick with this. I don't know, he is there, and then Kira shows up singing Xanadu out of nowhere, and this is her big return, is she's on the stage singing Xanadu. The problem with that is we don't get a big coming together of her and Sonny. She's there, and then he just shows up and puts his arm out, and they dance and stuff. But it's just like, why? This should be a big deal. It should be a big deal. And we get that performance that's like 6 minutes or so, and then she leaves again. And he's all sad. And it's weird, because when she leaves, there's no one there, and all of a sudden people just start to show up behind her. And I think it's to signify when they're together, it's just the two of them, and then like the world stops, and it's just the two of them. Maybe. I don't know. But gone, and then he goes sit with Danny, and Danny's like, hey, let me get something to drink. He's like, no, I'm fine. Hey, waitress, can you give my friend here a drink? And he leaves, and it's Olivia Newton-John. It's just supposed to be implied that it's Kira, but again, this doesn't really work, because he sees her, he's like, hey, wait. She's like, what? And he's like, I just want to talk to you. They start talking, and the credits roll. Music starts playing, credits roll, and it's like, wait, no. I've seen a lot of films. I've seen a lot of love story films. You need the moment where she shows up and he sees her and they run together and get into each other's arms. You need that moment. You did not have that moment because you wanted the big moment for her coming back to be the song number. And then Sunny just, okay, she's here and I'm happy now, and then she's gone and I'm sad and now I'm a waitress. And it's implied this could be Kira, now a human. I don't know. But it's a weird ending. I don't think the movie is as bad as people say. I don't think it deserves a Razzie by any way. There are worse movies that come out. I've never seen Can't Stop the Music, but I imagine a movie about the Village People is probably worse than this. I think it did win the Razzie, so yeah. I'm gonna give it a middle of the road because there's just some things. I like the performances. Gene Kelly was great. They gotta have him tap dance, of course, because it's Gene Kelly. And yeah, the musical numbers were great. And of course, Olivia Newton-John, great singer. Her performances, I don't think she's ever been the best actress, but she was good. She was okay. She was all right. Michael Beck was good. And I do like the scene where he quits because he's like, he calls his boss and he's like, hello, Simpson? It's Sonny. It's Sonny Malone. Get down here right now. He goes, Malone? He's all pissed and he comes down and he's like, I'm fired. Malone, I want you out of here right now. And this is all Sonny saying it. 5 minutes, not a minute more. For 6 minutes and forget about it. It's like, he quits his job and he makes, he's like, oh, he's getting fired and stuff. And I like that his one friend actually doesn't walk out with him, but he is seen with him later helping out. So, yeah, that works. There was Back to the Future moment where he's on the back of his van. He's hanging and stuff, and that's where he sees the building. But yeah, it's the middle of the road. It's not that bad of a movie, really, but there's a lot of musicals I'd watched before this, But yeah. So, that brings us to the end of the movies to review in 1980. But now I have to do the first actual episode of Project 80s, and as you can see, I have put together a background after having nothing back there, or my filming apparatus back there. So yeah, that's the background. As you can see, it's got back to the Ghostbusters, soundtrack vinyl, Back to the Future soundtrack vinyl. You got Stripes, Highlander, Rambo, Dirty Dancing, and the Star Wars trilogy, which came out in the 90s, that trilogy box set. I guess I could have just put The Empire Strikes Back, which is probably the main one that you would have there. Maybe I'll switch it. But then you got Sloth up there. I don't know. He wouldn't really be able to have anywhere to sit. Maybe I can put The Empire Strikes Back in front of that. So maybe in the first Project 80s video, I'll explain what the video is when I record it. I got a few things to do before I can record it, but so what are your thoughts on Xanadu? When it comes, let me sure, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.